Joshua of Egypt, Chapter 9, The Aroma of Mint and Blood. So, do you understand? Magus asked, and then picked up his cup of tea. Joshua sat at the breakfast table in the courtyard and went over his daily philosophy lesson with Magus. I think I understand. Knowing how the enemy will act is one thing, but do not emulate them. Their evil actions will only bring me down to their level. Joshua sneered at his own reflection in his tea. As a man who looks like some kind of monster, the last thing I want to do is make people think I'm evil. I don't think people view you as a monster. Magus chortled at that and sipped more of his morning tea. I see the way they look at me. I've been around these servants here for 2 weeks now. Not once have I been mean, upset, or even perturbed. I try to be nice, thankful, cordial. Yet I see hesitation in their eyes when they look at me. Magus looked at the men and women running about their daily activities. I cannot look through your eyes to see what they show you, but I wonder if you see your own reflection in their eyes. I'm not close enough to them to see myself in their eyes. That would be uncomfortable. No, I mean you're perceiving in their vision what you feel about yourself. You don't see what they think of you in their eyes. You see what you think of yourself. You're putting onto them your own personal assessment. This gave Joshua a moment of pause. Are you sure about that? I'm a hairy dog man with claws and fangs. That's pretty strange. Magus had an idea. Tell me, what do you think your instructors have said about you this week? Have you asked them their feelings on your progress? I haven't got the nerve. I don't think it would be very good. I couldn't hit the target right. I never really caught any of those animals they sent me to track, and I haven't beaten Haman yet in that strange strategy game he plays with me to teach me about battlefield tactics. I don't think they would have a very good assessment of my work here. Magus calmly sipped his tea and took a moment to taste it, prolonging the pause. What if I told you the reports I've gotten have been outstanding? What? Haman tells me you've shown brilliant foresight in your playing of that game with him. He is a master of that, and it challenges even the most brilliant tacticians I know. And he said you've come the closest to beating him at that game of any student he has taught here. Joshua shook his head. Well, to be fair, I played a lot of games with my mentors and instructors back in Egypt. That's not the same. Well, okay, and Crow tells me you show incredible agility, and your tracking skills are far superior to anyone else he has trained. He told me yesterday that he thought of having you come and scout with him on his next sentry post. He believes you would do a better job than anyone else he can call upon to join him. Haman is a strict person, but Crow is stricter. He never gives a good assessment of a new student. He hardly gives one of his experienced students. Wow, I don't know what to say. I'm not telling you this to simply boost your ego, at least not in the wrong way. I want you to understand the diametric you're facing. You assessed yourself as a failure, yet the instructors teaching you are glowing with excellent reports. You're too hard on yourself. Don't pass judgment until all the facts are known. Magus cleared his throat and then added, I have yet to hear any report from Brienne about your weapons training with her, but I know her assessment of your appearance. She does not see a hideous monster. She finds you quite attractive. Trust me, she doesn't hide her feelings from anyone. Joshua shrunk back a little. I know. She has told me several times. He decided to make his case stronger. Brienne is one thing, but I have good hearing. What about it? I have heard several of the girls here comment to each other they are disgusted by all the hair. One said that she was turned off by the tail. They don't think I can hear them talk, but I can. True. And I'm sure that different girls have different tastes when it comes to men, but they are discussing you as a man, not a monster. They would talk about anyone like that. Trust me. Girls will study men like they're picking out a fish at the market, whether or not he has dog features. I guess you're right. Brienne has been very honest about her opinion of my looks, and perhaps some girls I haven't heard talking about me aren't as disgusted as I'm assuming. You know, Brienne is quite taken with you. I can't say it's anything other than physical, but she has been very vocal about wanting you. I caught her asking a mage student if he knew of a love charm to get you enchanted into her room. Josh's mouth was agape. There aren't any love potions. Are there? Mage just pondered that for a moment. Not real love. There's no such power in magic that can create that. But lust? Well, there are a few potions that can cause powerful need for it. She wouldn't. I won't. May just laughed. Don't worry. The only people who ever concocted such terrible potions were the priests and mages of the cult of Aphrodite. It was banished over a year ago. None of the mage students here have any knowledge of such potions, and if they did, I wouldn't allow them to mix them. You're safe. Oh, thanks. Why don't you give it a try, though? May just said this and waited for those eyes to widen. Joshua coughed on that drink of tea had just started. With bugged eyes, he asked, Try what? May just didn't meet Joshua's eyes when he said, You know, a little playtime with Brienne. You can't be serious. Look, Circe herself said that you're indestructible, and Brienne is a very attractive woman. She probably wouldn't bring her axe to bed, but you would have a fun night if you just gave in. It could relax you and make your stay a little more pleasant. Joshua's eyes widened, and he was flabbergasted. Then that faded. He looked around to make absolutely certain that Brienne wasn't in earshot. She wasn't, but he still kept his voice low. Truthfully, I have considered it a few times, mostly to get her to stop bugging me and grabbing my butt every time she passes me in the corridor. And, well, you're right, it'd be an exciting night, though I go to bed sore enough. That might just do me in for a few days. But May just knew there was more to this. In fact, he was leading Joshua on by making this suggestion. But my heart is not ready for that. I want to be in love before I go to bed with someone. I never went to brothels in Egypt like the others. It may seem foolish to some, but real love matters to me. My father married for love and told me that was his wish for my life. And the woman my heart yearns for is not Brienne. May just sat down his empty cup. I understand. You still long for the girl back in Egypt. Huh? Oh, right, yeah, her. I see. May just gave a little smirk as he asked. So, tell me, how is Julia doing? Julia? Oh, she's fine, just fine. It worried me. Her first night here, she wasn't feeling well. Now she seems all right. Magus was not privy to the vision that Julia experienced that first night, as per the request of Circe. She was tired and didn't feel well, but that passed after a few days' rest. Oh, I'm glad. I'm also glad that she's been helping with my students, teaching them about healing potions and balm making. It certainly works. You've been benefiting from her work. How could you tell? May just sniffed. You smelled like mint every morning. Joshua then frowned. I know. I bathe each morning, but this stupid fur clings to that mint oil. I can't wash it out. Don't worry. You could smell worse, and mint is sort of manly. Now Magus was teasing him. Sure. Joshua wanted to change the subject away from his odor. So, is your blood blessing like Haman's? Just magic? Magus had a clever smile on his quiet face for a moment. Not exactly. Magic is part of my blessing from Circe, but she gave me one other gift. A special gift that is extremely unique, but I choose not to talk about it. It can be startling. Oh? Joshua was rather stunned. Is it, where's my dog? It is time for training. Brienne's robust voice broke across the courtyard. She wasn't even outside yet, and everyone here could hear her coming. Joshua took a last swig of his tea and then wiped his face with his forearm. Oh, I thought Crow's tracking training made me sore. This weapon instruction is brutal. Brienne came out with a big smile. Joshua, my handsome mutt! Taking long strides, she came over to the table with her axe slung over her shoulder. Joshua stood up and smiled at her. "Good morning, Brienne, and a good morrow to you." She suddenly grabbed him by the shoulder and pulled him in. With a few heavy whiffs, she smiled. "You smell like mint leaves again. I like it." Thanks." Letting him go, she asked, "Have you feasted this morning yet?" Yeah." "Good. You're going to need a bellyful to keep up with your training today. Ha ha!" Magus calmly asked, "What are you teaching him today? More swordsmanship?" She slapped Joshua on the shoulder. "Some, but he doesn't need it. This dog is an excellent one with swords. I'm going to teach him how to use his body today." "Now, Brienne, I told you that even as his instructor, you couldn't command him to your bed." Magus was teasing both of them. Brienne laughed loudly and slapped Joshua on the shoulder again, this time nearly knocking him to the ground. "No, we won't do that today. That kind of training requires the moon to be out, but oh, what a night it will be, huzzah!" Clearing his throat a few times, Joshua got up the nerve to ask, "What are you going to be training me in today?" "I'm going to throw things at you." She took perverse pleasure in saying that. "Throw things at me?" Brienne grabbed him by the arm and dragged him away from the table. "Come, you'll find out. It's going to be a glorious day of training." She waved her axe around with her other hand. "Make way, clear the training grounds, and bring me every kind of weapon we have on hand." Joshua whimpered like a puppy in trouble. Lamia, the dark mage, watched her quiet minions stand in place. The beautiful necromancer considered her next course of action. She had taken care of all the whims of King Morlick. The soldiers were armed and ready for combat. She had stationed several surprises at the borders in case of scouts. "I think I'll check my traps," she announced to one of the soldiers standing nearest her, though he was oblivious to any conversation. A gut-wrenching feeling stopped her. Lamia knew this sensation could only mean one thing. Turning around, she saw that the clouds above the dark palace had twisted and resonated with a glow of dark magic. Something of immense power was about to contact them. She hated being with Morlick when a god approached, but she would not be left out of anything. Dismissing her personal mission, she rushed back through the zombie denizens of the dark palace. Morlick stood before one of the newest statues in the great hall. It was a strange sculpture of a woman with clawed feet, dragon wings, and a long, slithering tail. It was the visage of the goddess known in the Eastern empires as Tiamat. Pluto had agreed to a pact between them, since it was Tiamat who controlled the spy that worked inside the temple of Circe. Lamia came up to Morlick's side and asked, "What's going on?" "She is calling upon us for help." Lamia had yet to hear anything of this goddess. Tiamat had not contacted them in any way other than through Pluto. The wings of the statue shimmered with a purple energy, then flapped a few times. A woman's voice boomed out from the statue. "Bring forth my powerful child of darkness. Set his wings upon the skies. Give his claws the blood of mortals. Let him feast upon the flesh of the unworthy. Summon the bones in the lake. Command will only be given for he who is worthy. Go, do as I bid." Lamia waited a moment for the speaking to end. What was that all about? "Tiamat has sent us a cryptic message. We are to summon something out of the dark pool of bones." "Look, blood from her eyes," Lamia gasped. "Quick, girl, fetch me a flask." Lamia ran and found a small phial and brought it back to Morlick. He held it up and gathered the thick reddish emerald-hued blood that dripped out of the eyes of the image of Tiamat. "She is giving us the blood for the summoning." "That must be the catalyst for the dark spell." Lamia took in a great whiff. "Oh, smell the blood is powerful." He finished and held up the mystic blood. "Yes, now let us conjure." He and Lamia left the main hall through the back and walked all the way to the end of the temple and out toward the festering pits of the former back courtyard. Pluto's Respite was once a beautiful lake enjoyed by the followers of the god of death. Now is a terrible place filled with the bones of fallen men, animals, and demons alike. In the waters was a mixture of bile and blood from those who were lucky enough not to be standing as undead soldiers. Morlik and Lamia came to the edge of the waters and felt the emanating power of death that permeated this region. King Morlik tipped the phial into the surface and drained the blood out of it. The waters turned and boiled where the blood met them. The foam it created grew and grew as more of the waters were infected. A rumbling growl increased from within the lake. Lamia held up her hands. I summon the power of Pluto, Lord of Death. I summon the strength of the true gods. Hail the gods of darkness. Hail the gods of death. Grant my request for your strength. A bolt of green lightning crackled through the skies and hit her, but she was happy for it. Morlik held out his hands over the placid waters. I summon the power of Pluto. I summon the strength of death. Hear my plea. Do my bidding. The sacrifice of life swims in these waters. Use it for your will of Lady Tiamat, goddess of the east, mistress of demons. He too was met by a bolt of green lightning and energized. Both chanted their prayers to the dark gods that were over them, and their spells took form in the waters. The blood of Tiamat's statues sunk into the bones it desired, twisting the ones it needed into new shapes. Suddenly, a dragon's skull broke the surface and let out a roar that shook the air. Two enormous wings of bone lifted up and down as they breached the surface. Soon after, a skeletal body came up with clawed arms and feet that were sharp as swords. It saw the two mages at the edge of the waters and screamed with the dragon's roar, a magic light emanating from within. It's beautiful, amazing, fantastic. Lamia couldn't control herself. She simply loved anything dead, and this was a masterpiece. What do we do now? Send it to attack Circe's temple? Oh, I want to watch it in action. It will only take the commands from its master. It must taste its master's blood. Lamia already had her ceremonial knife out. I'm willing to take this task. No, Morlik barked. Did you not listen to the goddess? She commands us to give this to her chosen servant. I suspect that only the one she has blessed in the blood can fully command this beast. If you give this thing even a drop of your blood, you will fall dead for being unworthy. Though you would make a fine addition to my armies, regrettably, I need you alive. Lamia gritted her teeth at how he slipped in another death threat toward her, as he always did. She put away her knife, a sullen look on her face. Fine. Where do we find him? We do not find him. Soon the beast will search for its master. We must be patient. Great. More waiting. Lamia scoffed and then walked away, heading round the palace. She looked back more than once at this creation, enchanted by the sight of such a marvelous bit of necromancy. She would have to figure out how to create such a beautiful thing.